Welcome to Remix EQ Live, where we are amplifying equity with a remix of information, interviews, and inspiration. I'm your host, Dr. Erica Tate, and today I am broadcasting live from Savannah, Georgia, where I live. For those joining us today, please drop a greeting of choice in the comments. Let us know where you are joining from and the equity driven work you do or aspire to do. And remember, Remix EQ Live is an experience that is meant to be shared. So I encourage you to hit your share and invite buttons and bring along your people, your network, your family, your friends, your peeps to join our Remix EQ community today. This season, we are broadcasting live on LinkedIn and YouTube. We can now connect more broadly, growing our reach and building our learning community. And while those comments are flowing in and those invitations are flowing out, I want to remind you that Remix EQ Live offers us the opportunity to connect and build community with each other around the equity driven world being performed throughout the world. And we do this by centering the work. That is, our guests and viewers share example of what they do in their role or position as a way to illustrate the innovative, effective, and meaningful ways they advance equity in the spaces in which they live, work, or play. So, throughout the show and in the comments, I invite you to also share what you do to make the world a more just place. It is season 5 of Remix EQ Live. We have a season of rhyming. And this is our first interview show of the season. In this episode, I am interviewing Pastor Yolanda Roberson, Executive Pastor of Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship and Chair of the Healthy Savannah Faith and Health Coalition, and the Reverend Guillermo A. Arboleda, Rector at St. Matthew's Episcopal Church in Savannah and the Missioner of Racial Justice in the Episcopal Diocese of Georgia. I have been looking forward to this conversation for so many reasons. One, it's not every day you have the opportunity to sit down with men and women of the cloth to learn how and why they have become social justice warriors. Also, both Pastor Yolanda and Reverend Arboleda and their congregations are located here in Savannah, where we live. So that's exciting. And in today's episode, you'll have the opportunity to listen and learn from them about how they are establishing interfaith partnerships in their pursuit of equitable and just outcomes in communities at the congregation, city, and state levels. So let us begin this important conversation for change. Welcome, Yolanda. Welcome, Guillermo. I'm so excited for you to join our Remix EQ Live show today. So we'll start with Yolanda. I invite you to introduce yourself. And as you do, please share 1 to 2 career or personal twists and turns that have led you to your current role.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Erica, for inviting me. I'm Yolanda Roberson, executive pastor of Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship. And prior to that, I was a social worker for an agency in Savannah where I worked with adults with disabilities for several years. And I still have a passion for that. And I kind of like to say that I'm still a social worker, always a social worker. And at that time, I transitioned over. We were pastoring a church for several years. I transitioned over to work in ministry with my husband, and we share in pastoring together. I'm the executive pastor. Of course, he's the senior pastor of Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship. And it's our passion to serve God and to serve the community and to serve others. And that's my trek to where I am right now.
Oh, great. Thank you. I love it. And then, Guillermo, please introduce yourself and, of course, share 1 or 2 career or personal twists and turns that have led you into your role.
Thank you, Erica. So glad to be here. Um, I am the rector of St. Matthew's Episcopal Church. I've been in that role since 2016, and I've been in the Missioner for Racial Justice role for the Diocese since 2020. I like to jokingly say, following Pastor Yolanda, before that, I was just a child. I haven't had many other jobs outside of church. That's not exactly true. I came up involved in churches, really found my call to ministry as a college student, and then went off to seminary in North Carolina. And fairly shortly thereafter, came right here to intern in Savannah with Episcopal churches, and then got hired at St. Matthew's 8 or 9 days after I was ordained, which was just kind of nuts. They put a ton of faith in me, and they were way too good to me in those early days, especially. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you all for sharing your journey. I always feel like this show is also really a way to introduce our community to role models. And so it's really important that we learn about the different pathways, especially different pathways for careers as clergy people. So I think it's really great. I think you're not only modeling for us how you got here with your different pathways or from childhood to clergy, but also the ways that you are integrating your faith and your desires for a different world into your professional work. So we're going to talk about that more throughout the show. So I'm excited to learn more. We have a few guests. Oh, that a problem. Hello, Dolores Arkwright. She says, good morning, everyone. And good morning to you. Oh, Regine, welcome back. She says, good morning, everyone. And she's wishing us a happy new year. Yay. And Brianna Matches, she says, good morning. Welcome, Pastor Yolanda and Reverend Guillermo. I'm excited to learn from you both. Yay. Thank you all for joining us. And for those who are just tuning in, this is Remix EQ Live, where we are amplifying equity through a remix of information, interviews, and inspiration. And now that you've had the chance to meet or reconnect with Pastor Yolanda Roberson and the Reverend Guillermo A. Arboleda, I know you are inviting others to tune in. And of course, I invite you to continue to interact with us. Post comments to say hello. We love to know that you are listening and watching. Ask questions, share any examples and learnings as we dive into this interview. You are part of the Remix EQ Live experience. Usually we enter into the next segment of the show where I ask our guests to say what they do in their roles and describe and share examples. But today I want to start with your why, to learn how you view the relationship between your faith and your work for advancing equity and justice. So this time around, we'll start with you, Guillermo. How do you connect your faith and your social justice pursuits?
That's a great question. Something I didn't mention in the twists and turns that's related to this is that I've been a part of several different denominations and styles of church and worship, and I didn't grow up in the Episcopal Church. I was not familiar with this tradition at all as a child or a teen or even into my early 20s. And so my twist and turn was around my faith evolving and my faith growing closer to this desire to see equity and social justice in the world, because the kind of tradition I grew up in didn't really emphasize social change or identify equity as a significant concern for us as Christians or us as people. And as I studied scripture and as I got involved in lots of different church traditions, I got to see just how big a part of our faith I believe we're called to make that. And also just how when you get to know real people who have experienced all kinds of different things, in a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different social, experiences. The heart, the compassion that I think was, trained and raised in me within the church from an early age just kind of sets on fire. And so, without disparaging any other traditions, I really found a home in the Episcopal Church where I was able to express all the ways that I see God calling us to bring equity, justice, and our faith all together into one package, because I believe God loves all of us, not just the Spirit,
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Yolanda?
Yeah, I agree. For us, we like to focus on the whole part of a man. And of course, the spiritual part is definitely needed, and it's what we should, of course, grow in. But then there are other parts of us that need growth and help and equity. And we love our community, but we also love God. And the Bible is full of compassion. It's full of love. It's full of helping people to grow. And we feel like we are the hands and feet of Jesus, and it's our responsibility to share that with spirit, soul, body, family, finance, faith, all of it. So it's our passion and it's our desire, not only for people to just grow spiritually, but our drive is to make sure that people are full and that they are being fed in every area of their lives. So we have a complete passion to make sure that the holistic part of a person is taken care of. And that's what drives us. And that's what drives me to do what I do.
Oh my gosh, think you can feel the love like pouring out of you all. No, it's really wonderful to hear. And I'm so glad that you all were able to find spaces in which you can bring your love for God, your love for people, and then your love for the world, and trying to create it into spaces that takes care of people, both in their spirit and then their whole person, as you spoke about, Yolanda. So I am glad that you shared that with you, and I'm glad that you guys are walking in your calling in this work, because it's important. You can feel it. So thank you for sharing your why. Thank you for helping us understand your faith, your calling, how they're connected. And before we move on to how you work, because you guys have so many examples to share with us, I do want to amplify your work. So for those who tune in to Remix EQ Live on a regular basis, you know that in our learning community, we celebrate each other and the work that is happening, but we also celebrate the works. This is what our guests produce for others. These could be books, talks, online content, and so on. So I want to encourage you to check out Yolanda's YouTube channel, Your Life with Yolanda, to be empowered, encouraged, and educated. And like she says in her intro, to also laugh a little, which I love, and then also, please check out Guillermo's TEDx talk, Amazing Grace and Mass Incarceration, which takes a critical look at traditional Christian practices throughout history and our ideas about mass incarceration. So please watch, listen, subscribe, react, comment, all the things we do to amplify their work to make this world a more just place. All right. So I think we have a comment from Dolores. She wants to shout out her pastor, Pastor Yolanda. She has a heart for helping people, and she's so proud of you. Yay! I love it. I love it. I love it. Yay! Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to center the work. This is an opportunity for us to learn from Yolanda and Guillermo about how they walk in their faith to create change in their communities. And as I mentioned at the start of this episode, both of them work at different community levels. So the next set of questions are intended for us to listen and learn from them about examples and approaches and tools that they are utilizing at the congregation, the city, and state levels. And so we can add these to our repertoire, our toolbox, as we work to make the world a more just place. So I'm going to start with Yolanda. So in your role as executive pastor at Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship, what type of programming do you provide your congregation to help them achieve equitable outcomes related to housing?
Oh, wow. That's so good. Actually, we have something that we are super excited about and very proud of that we've done for the last 4 years. And as a matter of fact, this past weekend, we had our 4th annual Home Buyers Workshop. And it's something that we started 4 years ago, like I said, to help in the area of housing and home ownership for people, because we realize that that's a wealth gap. It's a place where people can actually sort of ascend in the area of wealth. So buying a home is so important for dignity purposes, wealth purposes, and that sort of thing. So what we've done is we amplify that, and we've had over 66 people to purchase their first home in the last 4 years, which is an amazing thing that we're grateful that we had the opportunity to pull together many players at the table, realtors. We've had other banking institution, credit repair personnel, just to be there to inform and give the information to people all over the community, not just for our church, so that they can get into position to purchase their own homes. And that's been a big, major thing in the area of housing for us. And also the work that we do with homeless care in Savannah, which is huge for us too. So working with other agencies, working with other people who are already doing the work and not reinventing the wheel, but getting on board with them is also a major thing that we're excited that we get the opportunity to serve in.
That's great. Thank you. I love that you guys are working through your congregation to close the wealth gap, support home ownership. But just as you were even explaining the program, you just started naming all your different partners that are at the table with you to be able to make what I think is amazing 60 having bought a home here in the area and giving them the education and the tools to be able to do that. I think it's really wonderful. So I'm excited. Like you'll see this theme of partnership keep coming up throughout the session because of how they're doing the work. So Guillermo, so in your role as a rector of St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, how are you working toward a more just Savannah?
So one of the main ways that we work as a church toward justice is through partnerships with a bunch of other faith communities through an organization called Justice Unites Savannah Together. It's got about 20-ish congregations from a lot of religious traditions, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim. Everybody's kind of involved in this and working together to accomplish two major goals right now. We're working on affordable housing access and literacy in our public schools. For affordable housing, we're trying to get more investment from our city and county government in terms of building and making available affordable housing. And based on the research we've done in terms of other cities who have really worked on these areas, the most effective way to address the kind of housing gap where people are, paying 40-50% of their income on their housing in order to survive, which is, a really unsustainable way of living, is you have to create rental access at fixed rates that allow people who, make under, say, $70,000 a year to be able to afford to live, which is a lot of people, right? It's, and so that's one area. With literacy, we started that campaign about a year ago and worked closely with the school board in their hiring process for the new district superintendent. Have gotten to meet her, and she has worked with us in terms of trying to intentionally shift the curriculum toward what they call evidence-based or science of reading curriculum, which I'm of a certain generation that I remember seeing those commercials for Hooked on Phonics. It's kind of that. It's teaching kids to read through phonics, through sounding words out, which might be how you learn to read, depending on what generation you're from. But if you're younger than me, you might not have learned how to read that way, because there's been another movement in American education to teach kids through kind of like sight identification. And it's kind of hard to explain because I don't really know how it works. I don't get it. But the long and short of it is that method is proven to be less effective and has led to, in a lot of cases, lower literacy rates, lower passing rates among reading comprehension levels based on grade. And Savannah is fairly low in that in our public school system. So we're trying to turn that around and address that through a shift in curriculum back toward a tried and true method that has worked and is continuing to work for kids to really accomplish that goal of being able to read, because reading is an access point for so many other factors. It's an information point that can point to and connect with socioeconomic achievement, the ability to have a robust spiritual life, the ability to have a robust social life, the ability to find knowledge and participate in democracy. I mean, all the stuff that really makes for a well-rounded life, and at least in 21st century U.S., depend on literacy.
Yeah, man, I love it. We went from connections to agencies within our community, connections with different congregations across the city, 20 congregations of different faiths coming together and really taking up the role as advocates. For both, I love this, like the housing, affordable housing, as well as literacy. And so advocating on behalf of people to the city, to our districts, these huge institutions that really do shape how people live in our community. It's really great. And then still bringing that back to starting from a place of faith and a place of compassion for people as the driver for that. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so now we're gonna jump up a little more. I have the levels in my head. They might not be in anybody else's head. So Yolanda, you are also the chair of the Healthy Savannah Faith and Health Coalition. So what are 1 to 2 examples of how the coalition is working for improving health equity in Savannah?
Yeah, so of course, Healthy Savannah as a whole's mantra is to make the healthy choice the easy choice. So finding ways to make sure that every community has food access, healthy food access, and that sort of thing. And one of the things that the Faith and Health Coalition does as an arm of Healthy Savannah is basically gathering all of the faith community together, whatever denomination, whatever religion, so that we can support each other in the area of health and health equity. So we do that monthly. One of the things that we've done last year is have this major faith walk where all the faiths gather together and we actually walk. So we're going to be doing that again in April. And I'm super excited that we get the opportunity to share the community together so that we can establish and support health in all of our community. So that's one way that we actually started with our faith and health community last year, and we get to do this year as well. And then the other thing is we're going to have a meet and greet where we have the opportunity to discuss issues and other sort of ideas as to how we can have our congregations live and support a healthier lifestyle. And that's one of the ways that we get to do that with our meet and greet as well. So we get to hear from the faith community, even what they may be dealing with personally, because sometimes it's this listening to others and wanting to hear what some of their battles are or what some of their successes are in the area of health. So we'll have the farm truck available at our event for our faith walk and other vendors. It's going to be an exciting time. But then also with our meet and greet, we get to, as I said, the opportunity to share together all faiths to make sure that we are supporting each other in that area and policies affecting policies and change in that area too.
That's great. I love it. This theme of convening people right around this cause. And I think it's really great. I love that it's we have housing, we have literacy, we have health. It really speaks to the whole person, right? And serving the whole person that both of you raised when you were talking about why you are doing this work. And so even in this show, you can see that just between the two of them and their many partners, they really are thinking about and not just thinking about and taking action to make change so that all of our person, right, is supported as we move through life so that we can thrive. Dolores Arkwright says, oh, Reverend Arboleda, thank you for the work you are doing with our children and our school system. Yes, thank you. This is wonderful. I'm so excited. All right, so we're going up another level. All right, Guillermo. You are also the missioner of social justice. It just sounds like, yes, you're getting things done. Okay. You're the missioner of social justice for the Episcopal Diocese of Georgia. So what are 1 to 2 examples of the work that you do in this position to drive toward a more just Georgia?
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, if you're not familiar with all those big funny words, the Episcopal Church is a denomination organized by regions. And so the Episcopal Diocese of Georgia covers about half of the state of Georgia. There's a northern diocese called the Diocese of Atlanta. And so about the southeastern part of the state is Georgia, as far west as Valdosta and as far north as Augusta, thereabouts. And so I work with our bishop who kind of supervises that region on bigger issues that might affect the whole state and might affect other regions besides Savannah. Obviously, my work is primarily here because this is where I live and where I do my thing. But when the opportunities arise, I have written publicly on behalf of the diocese in different news publications or different press releases related to issues happening on the state level. For instance, just around voting access and when laws were changing, I believe in 2022 in the state of Georgia, that limited people's ability to stand in the long lines that sometimes have to wait in to go vote and restricted people's ability to give out water and things of that nature. I was willing to say, regardless of your partisan position or your political party, that doesn't seem right. and we really want people to be able to go vote and express themselves democratically and make their voices heard, so that we end up with policies that represent our desires and represent healing and wholeness for the whole person, like we've been talking about. And then I've worked a little bit on education around the criminal justice system, which is sort of how my TED Talk came about. Really diving deeply into the root causes of police brutality and mass incarceration. And so I've done a handful of educational opportunities for clergy in Georgia, and I'm eventually hoping I can do a little bit more of that for a wider audience. It's just that life has gotten so busy with so many other things, you know. One can only do so much, and still eat and sleep. But yeah, so I mean, my role as Missioner for Racial Justice was in large part based on a grant we received in response to the murder of Ahmaud Arbery in February 2020, and now 4 years ago, almost to the day. So our national church office sent that money to Georgia to help try to address some of these issues. So I've worked with my colleagues down in Brunswick and in that area. They're doing amazing work in terms of unifying across denominational and social lines to have a common voice speaking out for justice there, and I'm super proud of them. One of the pastors out there who's an Episcopal priest is Father Dwayne Cope, who grew up at St. Matthew's. So we got a real family connection, just about 100 miles away. So yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I work with, sort of facilitating and collaborating with people around other parts of Georgia to make sure that, especially the statewide policies that affect us and that we can't address through just talking to the city council or the county commission or what have you.
Oh, thank you. I was like, what? I was listening. I just appreciate like you guys in the breadth of work that you are doing, and then the differences in approaches. So in addition to programming, which I think always meets people where they are, right, and gives them the tools and support and encouragement, right, to pursue those things, but also that you're seeking these policy changes that allow for the conditions for them to be created so that they can live this life that you want for them and that they want for themselves and their families. But even as I knew this coming in because I invited you on the show because you guys are doing really great work, but I'm still like very impressed by the full range of things that you're doing, from thinking about the criminal system, thinking about our educational systems, thinking about the systems that impact our health, and the systems that impact our wealth, and creating spaces for people to move and make change in that. And then how you're doing it not in silos, but in partnerships with other congregations, but other agencies that make up our community. And so I just want to thank you for your work, and thank you for sharing those examples, because it really is, I don't know, illuminating how much can be done. And I know Guillermo, you're like, you could only do so much, but you have done so much. So you should sleep. You should rest, because you're doing really great things. And so thank you. On the show, you guys drop knowledge, and you just did that. And you also really, throughout the conversation, inspire us, whether it's to join up, right, on some of these causes with you or in line with you, or to really think about what other ways that we, as a community can contribute to making change. But I'd love for you all to drop one more bit of inspiration on our community so we can take that with us as we move forward. So I'm going to ask you guys the same question, but you can take it as you want. But I'd love for you to tell us why you're growing your reach. So why do you continue to grow your faith-driven service with others? And we'll go Guillermo, and then we'll go Yolanda.
So something that's emerged as kind of a theme in our conversation so far has been this talk about the whole person, and the reason why we try to address these things from a faith perspective. It's not just about, again, a lot of times in American and Western culture, we think about the spiritual life as separate from the things we do in society. And that was never the way that at least biblical authors and ancient Christians really thought about themselves. And I, as I listened to Pastor Yolanda, I kept thinking about this Hebrew word that pops up in the Hebrew Bible, also called Old Testament. It's the word nephesh, which is the word that's often translated soul, or spirit, ruach, spirit. But so those couple words are not really talking about like just this ghost-like thing inside of my flesh, but it's really talking about both. Like the word ruach means spirit, but it also means breath. And those two are connected. And having breath in my lungs, being a whole person in my body, is part of what it means to be a spiritual being in God's eyes. And so when we have systems in the world that are inequitable and that deprive people of the things they need to breathe every day, to have non-polluted air, for example, or to not have enough food to sustain themselves, or to not be taught how to read, or not have a shelter over their heads to protect that sacred temple that is the human body, well, then we're depriving people of access to the spirit too, right? And so that compassion begins with acknowledging how God wants us to love and respect the dignity of every human being.
Thank you.
Yeah, listening to this has been very inspiring for me. And I see myself as a young girl who didn't have the best of everything, and parents who had to really work hard, but they also struggled. And seeing where I've come from and where my faith has led me gives me a bigger responsibility as a mom of two kids who are African American, who live in a society that may not have always been the friendliest in certain situations, and having a passion to help others. That gives me a push and a drive to continue to connect faith with whatever work we're doing that's passionate for us, to make sure that others have a path and a pathway to better for their lives and for our entire community. So I see myself in others, I see my children, and then I see the opportunity to serve. And that's what gives me the passion to go forward and continue the work that we're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Yolanda Roberson. Thank you, the Reverend Guillermo A. Arboleda. Thank you for accepting my invitation to speak about what matters most to you, your faith, your call to serve others, and your call to support the whole person, the whole being. I think we've learned so much for you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I know the community is, to listen and learn from you, especially why you've chosen to make this world a more just place. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And you guys are more than welcome to come back in another show, in another season, to share. I know you're going to get down to business and get more things done, but share other things that you're getting done, and other things that you want help in getting done, and then to have the community engage with you in those efforts. So thank you. And just a reminder to the community, I'll return next month on the 2nd and 4th Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern for more Remix EQ Live episodes. On March 8th, I'll host another community reflection show where I'll hold space for us to reflect together on the role of our personal experience and how that can play a part in how we advocate for our communities. And then on March 22nd, we're back for another interview show featuring Dr. Jillian Watley, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Jillian Watley and Associates, LLC, and Dr. Donna Y. Ford, who's a Distinguished Professor of Education and Human Ecology at The Ohio State University's College of Education and Human Ecology. And our discussion on that day will focus on implicit bias and the impact that it can have on our educational institutions, such as schools. So tune in on LinkedIn and YouTube. Also like and share our upcoming and past shows. Catch up. You binge watch on Netflix, you can binge watch Remix EQ Live. Be sure to watch our feed. Be sure to check your inbox, and then visit the Remix EQ Live webpage for episodes, announcements, recordings, and more information about our inspiring guests like Yolanda and Guillermo. In the meantime, I invite you to view my recent TEDx talk entitled Building Community to Make the World a More Just Place. It was inspired by this show and your community. Yay, look at the fireworks.
I don't know how that happened.
I love that.
I don't know.
God, I
Can't explain
how
it.
to do that.
But
There's so
Erica's
many
TED Talk was
times.
awesome. I was there for it.
Okay. Yeah, so if y'all, that's how I met Guillermo, is that we were both in the same class or
Cohort?
year. I don't know. Yeah, for TEDx talk. We were right beside each other too. Like he spoke, then Amazing Grace was sung, and then I spoke. So it was really cool. It was great. You guys have to check out the talk. It's wonderful. Yeah, so continues the theme of social justice and social justice warriors. Also, while you're there, please learn about new ways to support the Remix EQ community by donation, and which for those of you who go to church, you can consider it a love offering, right? That helps us plan, promote, and produce each episode that you listen and learn from. And of course, you can purchase merch such as our Amplify or Empower notebooks that allow for you to jot down those thoughts and capture those inspirations from our guests. And while you're on the show's webpage or you're engaging in a bit of justice-inspired retail therapy, please poke around the website and learn more about my business, Blue Knowledge, which advances equity in schools and communities through collaborative research, inclusive evaluation, and equity-driven professional and community learning. And of course, you can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us on the Blue Knowledge YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, I invite you to connect to me here in these digital streets. Thank you, Remix EQ community, for your engagement, your encouragement, and of course, your rally, which is how we recognize, appreciate, learn, love, and take care of you as you work to make the world a more just place. I'm your host, Dr. Erica Tate, and this is Remix EQ Live. See you next time.